Coming up next on the Jeff Crilley Show, he used to be a doomsday prepper. Now he just finished a trilogy. This is his latest installment. It's called Glory of Eden. His incredible story just ahead.
Many are predicting that the worst is yet to come, which is unfortunate, said one person here. Until now, they've enjoyed the reputation of being the nation's icebox.
Watched a burglar in his home this morning by webcam.
As a journalist of over 25 years, stories are what make my world turn.
Reporting live from the Dallas newsroom tonight, Jeff Crilley, Fox 4 News.
But in 2008, I took the jump from my familiar life and started a PR firm from my home.
We're talking about anyone with a camcorder like the one I'm using becomes a television network.
We started slowly growing the company, and we now have over 100 clients, and we've branched into the world of live digital broadcasting. I now own 8 different TV studios and have a huge team, and the stories that I now get to share are sometimes the most important of my life. Life has a funny way of coming around full circle. This is the Jeff Crilley Show.
Well, there's so much divisiveness on the planet. If you even look at our own country with this election, if you were watching the debate, you saw how polarized the nation is. And so a lot of people are talking about the end of times, including my next guest, Benjamin Thomas. He's the author of Glory of Eden. Thank you for coming on the show.
Good to be here, Jeff.
Yeah, and you were here a few months ago. You just finished your 3rd book. It's part of a trilogy, Glory of Eden. Tell us about well, first let's talk about the trilogy and what does the 3rd and final installment bring?
Well, Jeff, the Revelation Riddle trilogy came out of just a hunger and desire to understand God's plan for humanity. And as you mentioned earlier, I was a doomsday prepper. I had my go bags, I had all my gear, and I got hungry to understand God's plan. And so I started getting into the Bible a few years ago. And what he uncovered in there was incredible. And so what this 3rd installment of the Revelation Riddle series covers is his complete timeline, all the things that he's promised in the Word that haven't come to pass yet, but will during this next phase. And just gives people hope. It gives people, shows people that God has not given up on us. He had a plan the whole time, and that Satan walked into every trap set by him. He never had a chance.
And let's drill down more on hope, because when people hear the end of times, it seems very fearful, but your book series is very hopeful.
It is. You know, I think when people hear about end times, they think about the end of the world, right? We've all watched the movies that show, the world blowing up either through some kind of nuclear holocaust or alien invasion or what have you. Well, in the Bible, it talks about the end of the age. Same world, but different age. And so we are now at the end of the age, going to be moving into a new age on the same earth that is very exciting. And so that is what I discovered as I studied the Bible, is that we're coming up into the most amazing period in human history since the Garden of Eden.
Wow.
And so we have nothing to fear. If you know the Lord and you have a relationship with Him, you have nothing to fear. You have everything to be excited about right now.
And let's go ahead and put the book cover up on the screen so people can see it. I love the artwork on your series. Let's talk about going back to Eden. What does that mean to you?
Well, look, Genesis chapter 1, right? Adam and Eve were in the garden, and we all know the story. Mm-hmm. They transgressed, and what happened when they did that is they took their authority over earth, their dominion, their rule, their reign, and they were clothed with God's glory, and they gave it to Satan. And when that happened, it wasn't permanent. It was for a long time, 6,000 years, but there would be a day when it would come, we would go back to that time when we were in the Garden of Eden and get our authority back and also wear that glory suit again. And so that story, if you will, this book is about the return to glory, the return to that place in the garden with close fellowship with God, wearing our glory suit once again in total victory over Satan.
What's been the reaction to your trilogy so far?
I've had a lot of incredibly positive reaction from people that are really studious, ready to look at something different. It's a very different message than what we've been taught. If you grew up in the classical evangelical church, you were taught that the world is supposed to get worse and then we get whisked out of here and a rapture. Well, this is very different, because what I say in this book is, no, there is a rapture, but it's a rapture of evil, not of the righteous. And so God removes evil from the earth and leaves us here in a type of Garden of Eden. And so it's very different, but when people see the scriptures and they see the story, then they understand, yes, this is what it's talking about.
And I'm assuming you've been a believer your whole life, raised in the church?
Raised in the church my whole life, yeah.
And so you had read Eden many times.
Oh, totally.
So what was it about the most recent time you studied Genesis that caused you to say, no, I've been reading it wrong the whole time?
I kept seeing it over and over and over in the Bible, where it talked about, a time when evil would be conquered and that the glory would be restored on God's people. And I saw that in every book of the Bible, that there'd be a judgment event called the stone judgment, and there'd be a fire judgment as part of that, but then it'd be a restoration and redemption. And so it caused me to go back to Genesis and really look at what God really said to the serpent, what he really said to Adam. And I realized, wait a minute, he wasn't saying this was permanent, that they would be, out of the garden. He was saying that because of our disobedience, we would have done the same thing, Jeff. If we were in the garden, we would have done the same thing. But because of your disobedience, you're going to have to endure a lease that I'm going to give to your enemy, or you gave to your enemy, that's going to last for 6,000 years. And at the end of that lease, it comes back to God's people. And so, when Satan tempted Jesus in the wilderness, he said, everything's been given to me. All the kingdoms of the world have been given to me. And he was right. We did give it to him. And he said, I'll give it back to you if you bow down right now. Well, what Jesus knew was it was going to come back to him anyway in about 2,000 years. So he was out offering him a 2,000-year shortcut. Well, he didn't take the bait, Jeff. But Jesus knew the whole time that we would get it back, that kingdom of heaven would come to earth, come back to his people. He knew it the whole time. He knew that was a shortcut being offered, and he didn't take the bait. But now we're at the 2,000-year mark after the resurrection of Christ, and he said, I will be beaten, I will be persecuted, and on the third day my body will rise. So he's not just talking about his physical body, he's talking about us, the believers. So we're running into now a grand convergence of the third day of the church, the 6,000th year of humanity, which would be the seventh day of humanity, a day of rest. And we're running into the end of the age, and it's all sort of converging in the next few years. And it's an exciting time to be alive.
We've got a clip of you on the national news, because I know you do quite a bit of media interviews. Tell us about educating people through the media. Is that fun for you?
It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun just to have great conversations like this. And the reality is that we're finding out right now that a lot of things that we were taught from childhood and up weren't exactly the way we were taught. They're not exactly the way that we thought they were. And so it shouldn't surprise us that the way we were taught in church, that there may be some things that we need to rethink. And so you think about all the lies that have been exposed in the last 5 or 6 years, just across the board. It really shouldn't surprise us that much to know that, some of these things that we were taught in Sunday school really that's not actually right. And so I think for a lot of people, they just assume just because we were taught this certain way our whole life that must be the truth. And what I'm finding out is no, God's plan is bigger, better, more exciting than anything we were taught in Sunday school. And that really shouldn't surprise us that much, that we serve a God that's much bigger than even our Sunday school dreamed up, back when we were growing up. So we serve a big God, Jeff.
We're going to tell people how to order the book and the trilogy in a second, but we've in the final 2 minutes. Look into that camera on the left and speak to the person who's fearful right now, because they understand what you're saying, but they don't want to face the future.
Well, I've been there. I mean, I was a doomsday prepper. I was very impressed with the plan of the enemy. He was organized. He had everything locked up in our society. But then I discovered that God's plan was so much grander and more amazing than the enemy's plan. It'd be like comparing a rocket ship to a broken bicycle. What I discovered in the Word of God is that Satan walked into every trap. We have nothing to be afraid of. Right now is the time we need to be getting close to God, because His plan for us is amazing.
Outstanding. That's a great way to leave this segment. We're also going to leave you with Benjamin's website, which is revelationriddle.com. The great Benjamin Thomas. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you, Jeff.
You bet. That's it for now. We'll see you next time.